Welcome to the Ultra Ascent Podcast. Your hosts, Alex Proctor and Mark Dowdle, are two aspiring professional runners with the goal to take you on a journey of making that dream a reality. You'll be given an inside look to what life is like as an unsponsored athlete and all the trials and tribulations that it entails. Along the way, they'll share how they train, what races and challenges are currently on their calendar, and how they aim to land support from brands. Alex intends to dominate in the professional trail running sector, taking souls and finishing on top the podium at the most premier trail races around the world, while Mark seeks to find new ways to discover the unknown and self-made, not yet accomplished ultra distance challenges. Let's get into the show.
January 12th, the boys are back together. Your hosts, Mark Dowdle, Alex Proctor, with another episode of Ultra Ascent. Today we've got life updates, race plans, race updates, training updates, and a few other things that we'll probably randomly get into as we tangent our ways into them. First things first, started a new job this week at the run shop, the local run shop, Salt Lake Running Company. It's been really good. Got hired there and started working on Monday. Working part-time for now as I continue to navigate, different career paths and how I want to, continue networking and making connections in the running industry, and hopefully along the way find a job that's full-time that will be able to support not only my goals but my family's goals in the future. And so started there. It's been really good so far. I've been training in as a cashier and then working my way into the sales floor once I get that experience. And it's really cool to be around people that enjoy sparking I guess the person that's getting into running into their first shoe, into their first running shoe, or something to keep them consistent at the start of the new year. So it's been cool to see people come in with that little twinkle in their eye and want to start getting into something new, whether that be just starting to walk more, starting to exercise more in general. I think that's probably the most of our demographic right now. But hopefully getting into running and then transitioning into more things like bigger goals, races, events, ultras. So that's been good so far. There's been some cool events that have stemmed off of that already this week. On Wednesday, we had our monthly meeting where a brand comes in, showcases some of their shoes, gives us some product knowledge on it, and learned a little bit about that. And then this Saturday we had an event with another brand. We ended up going go-karting, which was sweet.
Team go-karting?
Yeah, it was go-karting. It was awesome. That was last night. It ended up going much later than I thought it would because the place was running a bit slower than usual because we had our event group, and then there was groups mixing in between our races. I ended up doing pretty well in the first heat, and like the heat that seeded me in the next, the race that actually mattered. But then the race that actually mattered, my car was the only one that died, so I lost my place by like 6 places by the time they came out and adjusted it. So either way, it was a hit to the ego. I thought I would end up on the podium with one of those medals, but because that was something they gave away at the end.
They gave away
medals.
medals?
They did like a little medal presentation. The company did, which was funny. So that's where we're at right now with employment. So part-time there. Potentially we'll transition to full-time. I guess it's just a matter of when I feel that time is right, and if I feel like the opportunity outside of the running store at this moment isn't there. So they said that option's on the table if I'd like to take it. But it feels good. It feels good to be in a position now that lines up with my passions. I'll say that. Anything new in your life?
Well, can I just ask something on that, because we had an interesting conversation. Me and this was Raymond, Caius, and I went for a run on Thursday. And for those that don't know, Raymond and Caius are two
The
guys,
stroller runners.
the stroller runners, the stroller crew that runs from Duluth to the cities every year. But he was talking about how one of his buddies from high school had contacted him about getting into running. He was just starting out, and his buddy was asking him all those like really beginner questions, like what shoes should he get,
Mm-hmm.
what shorts, what nutrition, like what watch should he get. And we were kind of laughing about the uh, just that like those beginner questions and how unimportant they are when you actually get into running. And that's where I've always found the frustration of those questions is like they're so unimportant. There is importance to it, but like, how do you think about that when someone comes in, never ran before, looking to get in the sport, and you can sense they're focused on the wrong things, but you're also there to sell them a product. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, I think what I would do, I guess I just started, but my my general idea is to bring out a few different options for them to maybe spark their interest, maybe say a few things about something that might excite them and might want them to get out the door more.
Mm,
Um, I know when it comes down to it, the biggest things you can do in running is just to start.
yeah.
With most things, but I think it's anxiety and I think it's intimidation before you start those things that prevents people from actually doing it and then asking the questions because it almost stalls the process in a way and it
Yeah.
gives them time to like maybe try to calm their nerves. Um, but I guess for most people that walk in, I would just bring them three different options and just say like, these are probably what best suited for your needs and what you want to do, and tell them about some of the features, and if that excites them and gets them out the door more, that's power to them. Because what I really want to do is just inspire people to move more. I think that's
Mm,
the biggest thing, and you can do that in any shoe. You can do that barefoot. But I guess if you're on your feet more and for longer amounts of time, you probably want something that lines up with not only like your foot's shape, how it moves. And I know that's probably the corporate answer, but
yeah.
that's when it comes down to it. There's some people that actually do have some needs that might might uh might need some extra help there.
For sure.
I guess I didn't give you like a real good answer, but um, yeah, it's an interesting crossroad that I have to navigate, and something that it's hard for me. It's hard for me to. I'm already finding it's hard for me to leave out my personal
Yeah.
opinion
Yeah.
and see it more from the eye of the customer
Mm,
and how they understand it as a beginner. Because as I've been running for 2.5, almost 3 years now, I've started to gather my own opinions and biases, and I can't let that affect how they make their decisions, because it's
right.
totally different, and that could it could sway them in the wrong direction. So it's tough, but altogether it's been pretty enjoyable so far.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, on my end, I guess the one update I'll share is I'm getting new roommates this week
Whoa,
on
that's
Thursday.
big news.
Big news. I've been living in
Facebook
this.
Marketplace finds or no?
They were strolling by and saw the for rent sign in front of my
Oh,
house. So
nice.
so I've been split between two rooms, and now I've moved everything in one room. I'm in basically my new office here, and dude, just rearranging a room can do so much. It can do. I'm
The feng
stoked. Like
shui, dude.
it's unreal. So,
You got the cozy vibes going with the
dude,
wood, the candle.
I got cozy vibes. I got a couch in here. This was in the other room. Got a little feng shui in the back. Bedroom in the other room. I don't know. It's like got me stoked and re-energized, and I find myself much more able to do work creatively. And it's only been a day, So if you're looking for a creative boost, maybe just rearrange your room.
My
Or
sister used to rearrange her room once a week.
what?
It was nuts. I'm not kidding. She might still do it. I don't think she does anymore because she lives with her boyfriend.
That's
But
wild, dude.
she seriously would. Like I would be in my room gaming, and I would just hear the furniture moving around, and all of a sudden it'd be different. You know, it was crazy. I
That's
know.
extreme, but I mean, hey, power to you.
Yeah.
Um, and I see you got Hans Troyer wins Bandera 50K. What do you want to say on that?
Yeah, he's another guy that's young and up and coming in the sport. One that's I would say he's a known entity now in I guess a lot of ultra running circles. He had a great showing last year at the Black Canyon 100K. Um, he went up against Hayden Hawks and they duked it out, and he ended up falling off a bit and taking 10th. He had kidney failure for a few weeks in the hospital. But he's going to be a real threat at Black Canyon, so I'm looking forward to seeing him again there. I had met him previously at the Grindstone, bib pickup, and recognized him from not only just seeing him on YouTube from the Black Canyon race, but on his own YouTube channel. He's got a cool um, training vlogs and race vlogs there. But he's someone that's going to be a lot of competition at Black Canyon. So looking forward to seeing him. I just wanted to shout him out because he's super cool. Also a follower of Christ. I think he's got
Mm.
something in his bio about it too, and I talked to him about it at Grindstone. So cool to share that with him as well. And I think that based on his kit today, it looked like he might have just signed with Ultra. I don't think it's been officially, I don't think it's been officially released yet or posted on any sites. But based on his kit, it looks like he signed with Ultra, which is pretty cool and interesting because they just had signed Tara Dower for over six figures, and they're investing in Hans Troyer as well, which I think
Unreal.
is big moves for that brand. And um, that brand is polarizing, but if they're bringing on all these folks, I think it's going to help their image a lot. So
And and do you have any thoughts on the free trail performance and trail runners of the year? Did you have a chance to look at any of those?
yeah, I did. That one's interesting because it goes across all disciplines, not just ultras. So all trail runners, and I do think that the Golden Trail World Series, which is a sub ultra circuit, um, has the most elite running athletes on the trails in the world. So I can see why um, some of those athletes were higher rated than others. It was cool to see my coach up there, Hayden Hawks, in the top 10. I forget what position he was at, third, fourth, possibly, maybe second. I'm not sure. I think he might have been second, honestly. Um, so cool to see him up there. Um, but did you have any opinion on that?
Well, I was just it surprised me that it's a Golden Race series.
Golden Trail World Series, yeah.
Golden Trail. I was surprised that that was because the person that what it was like a 27K.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, I was surprised to see that those were like the guy that won that series and a number of those races where it seemed like a shorter, less than a marathon was like the winner of this trail series. And I don't typically when I think of like these epic racers or performances, my brain instantly goes to the 100 miles, 240 miles, 200 milers, backyard ultra winners. And then you have these like you forget that the trail is all distances.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're kind of in the loop more in that world. So I was just wondering your perspective on it.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think that I guess when you compare it to roads and track, you might say some like the best, athletes are like the 100-meter runners, the 1500-meter runners, the 800-meter runners. Like pound for pound, they're probably the best all around athletes in comparison to the half marathoners or the marathoners. Um, so I think that there's some weight there that kind of carries over to trail running as well. And I don't know if it's something that it's hard for me to put weight behind it because it's not something that I'm necessarily passionate about. The short distance is not something I'm necessarily passionate about, but I think it's interesting to a lot of folks because these people are full on the gas for these entire races. It's not like an ultra where you're kind of
Right.
just coasting along in Z2, Z3, lower heart rate. Like these people are going to the brink of it for as long as they possibly can in that like time frame, you know. So it's like if it's a 2 hour race, like they're going as hard as they can for 2 hours straight, which I think pushes what's capable in terms of like your anaerobic ability, which is interesting. But yeah,
Yeah, Hayden Hawk got second.
yes, sir.
That's
Coach of
pretty
the
cool.
year. Yeah, yeah, he had good performances at Black Canyon, obviously, OCC, or should I say CCC? CCC. We're losing our credibility here. Um, and what else did he do? Did a few 50Ks. He was going to swing back and possibly do a race in South Africa as well, but ended up shutting it down. I think his big focus next year is Western States, so gearing up for that one. But I guess on the race tune, any updates on your Arrowhead training? Anything you want to share more about that race? Anything? I guess this could be, if it's coming up next weekend, right?
2 weeks.
2
Well,
weeks, okay.
I should double check. It is the 27th. So that's I think 2 weeks from tomorrow. Yeah, 2 weeks from tomorrow. I feel confident about the training. All the training's done. 3 weeks of calendar club, October, November, December. I've been running just on and off, just trying to stay consistent. My goal this year for running, just like the consistency, is to not take a day off, whether that's 1 mile. I just ran 2 miles, and I think that's the most addicting uh, distance to run. Like you just get in this like.
See, get you in the Golden Trail World
I
Series.
know, I know. So the training is in the legs, the lifting still being consistent on that, and the rest is like gear. So I've gotten most of the major boulders, such as like a minus 20-degree sleeping bag, which is I didn't know would be that hard to find, but I found a buddy that has one that I can borrow, so that saves me like $700. My sleeping pad from the runs I did this summer work. Lucy and I went to REI tonight to get a pair of Smartwool gloves, and then tomorrow I'll be going back to REI to get like a thicker mitten that's more wind and water resistant that I can put over the top. So it's just kind of like
getting into all this gear here.
dude, this gear is costing me a lot of money.
How does it feel to go from it not really mattering to you to kind of trying to hone in what you got?
Stressful, dude, because that's probably like the biggest stressor and unknown for me at this point. Is I was talking to Lucy tonight about that. Is like, this is the most anxiety I've ever had for a race because there's so many unknowns and there's so many variables, and like the only thing to compare it to in like unknowns and anxiety going up to was the 500-mile run I did a few years ago for Love Like Lori. And that was like going through 3 different states, making sure that like 9 people on a team had food and sleep, and like I was putting together the schedule for everybody. I was the race director for that whole thing, and that was and getting sponsors and getting like all of that was stressful, but nothing in comparison to thinking about the unknown of what type of glove I need to get where my hands won't be in danger of getting frostbite in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota. So I think it's just something I've never done before, and there's a lot of anxiety around that, but am so much looking forward to getting going with that, just because to me, especially these longer distance runs and races, is like, dude, for at least 34 hours, I will be able to block out everything, and all the anxiety leading up to it will just go away, and it'll just be time to shut off the world. Like, I'm so
Hmm.
excited for that.
So you're
So,
saying it's going to take you 34 hours or more?
I am
Is that what you're saying?
I am estimating 34 to 36 hours, and I am basing that off of my Wausau performance, and um, doing the 4 mile an hour. Now, we'll see if that actually happens, but as long as I can hold myself to a standard, at least I can keep myself moving and know that if I do that, then I'll put myself in the best position to win. I know that winning isn't everything, but as somebody who likes to compete and is trying to make this a lifestyle and profession, I am definitely going in there with a set of just a hunger mindset that this I'm kind of looking, as I'm looking at this script or these points to talk about today, and the race calendar I've put together, like, I really am looking at this year as I've built 5 years of foundation to have a year like this and to put things on the calendar, that I'm looking at every single one of these and saying, if I get into all these races, if I go to all these races, I have an opportunity to win all these races, and that's the mindset I'm going into it with. And if that were to happen, I'm not saying that all my life stresses will go away, but I think having the year that I'm hoping to have would allow me to at least put myself in a situation where I can provide. Like, I opened up the book of Timothy today as I was uh, going into, thinking and reflecting and having this job offer negotiation. And like, the book of Timothy says that um, it's it's worse to be a person who calls himself a follower of Christ or a follower of God who can't provide for his family than it is to be a non-believer. And
Mm.
like, man, that's a lot of responsibility, and that's a lot of I don't know, like, there's just so much weight in that, of like, you are called to provide. You're As a man, you are called a man of God. You're called to provide for the people that are in your circle, and that does mean financially too. That doesn't mean only financially, but that does mean financially. And I want this to be the thing that helps provide for my future family. And I think going into this year, I am definitely taking that in with each race. Like Arrowhead, I'm hungry, to use that as an opportunity to say, I'm not coming here just because this is a fun race. I'm coming here to set the tone for the year.
Man, do you think that I guess with the realization that some of these opportunities come from winning and being successful at these events, that has almost provoked you to become, I guess, more more competitive? I feel like there was a point in your life, I guess the past, what would I call it? What'd you call it? 3 4 years that you weren't really competing in races, events, team sports like you had been in the past when you were playing football and lacrosse.
Yeah.
What has changed between the past 3 and 4 years and now?
I think just understanding that there's a difference between deriving my value and what I'm worth to winning to so I'm not conflating that. Like, if I don't win Arrowhead, if I don't win any of the races that I have signed up for this year, I don't think of myself as a less person. I don't think of myself as a less valuable person. But I do understand now more than I did in years past that yes, there is a game that is played, and I'm entering into a game of where I want to get sponsors and be financially funded through running. That if I want those things to happen, then I have to win at the ways in which the game is valued, and
Mm.
and people get paid on, yes, their influence in the way that they use social media, but they also get paid on how successful they are in their sport, and you have to justify that through some metric,
Mm-hmm.
and winning races is a metric to
Winning,
use. Winning
winning
races
races.
is a metric to use.
Yeah.
So I think I'm
Uh,
just more hungry to understand, like I'm just hungry in recognizing that winning, although it doesn't mean that much as I value myself as a person, it does mean something. And it does mean something to maybe the work that I put in.
mm-hmm.
Like I can look back and say, you know what? I didn't just win this by luck. I didn't win this by chance. I won this by the work that I put in. And I'd love to sit here 3 weeks from now and be like, the work I put in actually meant something. The sacrifices I made to spend all this time away from Lucy, all this time away from the things that I would otherwise rather be doing, it was worth it. So, but what I don't know, just do you feel like that has changed for you at all? Do you like we're
Um.
kind of in the same we're in the same game, like
Yeah.
how do you
Yeah.
view the
It's
game and
me
how
versus you. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah, yeah.
No. Man, I think I've just kind of wanted to carry over my competitive fire into a new sport, and from baseball, from basketball, from football as a kid, and I think this might be the first year where I think I could actually be slightly competitive
Mm,
in running. Um, and I guess I never really lost the competitive fire. It's just that now that I've continued to put in the work, I've continued to see better results and see that my endurance is getting better and that I'm feeling like I can take on more volume, that my results will also begin to match up with all the work I'm putting in. And I think there's a lot of satisfaction in that. Um, having something pay off. And, I'm not saying that I go out at Black Canyon and have the race of my life and that's all the satisfaction I need and that's my payoff. But I think I'll be satisfied if I cross that finish line and I know that I like left it all out there and I didn't leave a stone unturned in the
mm,
work that I put in to the block, as well. Um, but I don't think I've really lost any competitive fire, and I don't think I've really gained any as well. I think that as I get better at a sport, though, I think I get more competitive because I realize like the level has started to elevate,
yeah.
and that makes me want to play with the big dogs more.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me want to go harder against the guys that are better than me. Um, because like right now, like I would say that I'm like a front of the middle pack kind of guy. And as I continue to progress and I get to like the front of the pack and competing with the elites, like I think I will start to become even more and more competitive. And I don't know if that's a negative to. Uh, it's a hard internal battle because you don't want to be fueled by strictly winning. You don't want your ego to lead you. So I guess it's just a matter of staying in tune with yourself and making sure that your relationship with the Lord is probably number one, and not getting ahead of yourself, because I feel like it's easy to start to get selfish with some of these things, especially with lots of training and focusing a lot of that on yourself. Um, so I'm spitballing here, but Yeah.
Well, how is some of those things translated into Black Canyon coming up? Like, where you at mentally?
Mentally, I'm getting pretty fatigued and ready to race. Honestly,
Are you?
it's been it's been a longer block than I'm used to, just because I had quite some time after Grindstone in September up until now, and I still have about 3 more weeks until Black Canyon. So it's been a long time since I've properly raced, and with that, I guess comes new gains and new strength and mileage and time on feet and blocks that I haven't been able to hit before. This week, I just capped off a run with Natalie today. We hit a double right before this podcast that brought me up to 93 miles in the week, which is my biggest training week to date outside of racing and our events. So legs are starting to feel it a bit more. Need to move a bit more gingerly on my easy days than I'm used to. A little bit slower. Um, but I've only have like 3 more weeks until Black Canyon, and I'm ready to go down there and throw down. I'm excited for the unknown, because this race is going to be a lot faster than the ultras that I've run before. The first, I don't know, what is it, 21 to 29-ish miles, I think, somewhere in that range is basically just straight downhill, or net downhill. So people say that your quads are going to be a lot more damaged than you think, and then you have most of the courses uphill in the second half, like the second 50K of the race, which is going to be interesting because I've been running on mostly snow in the winter here in Salt Lake City for the past few months. So getting to run on rock downhill might be a shock to the system, but I think with my body type and my big bonedness, I think that I'm durable and that I'm able to handle quite a bit of impact. So,
What do you think the biggest unknown right now that you're not two unknowns. One that you won't be able to know until race day, which you might have just said with the downhills and the rock. And the second that is an unknown that you still have time to figure out that you need to concentrate more on before race day.
That's a good one. I think the unknown that I'll be able to focus on before race day that will be known if I concentrate on it will be heat training and heat acclimatization. And it's hard to do in the winter here since it's 32 and below most days. But what I've been trying to do to start acclimating more is just wearing more layers and not taking them off and making sure I feel that heat when I'm running, no matter if I'm going like slow or on workouts. And then this next coming week, I was talking to Natalie about it. I'm going to start implementing the sauna after my runs, and making sure that I get it done right after I run. I have a sauna at the rec center we go to that I can hit for 20 minutes and not just get the recovery with the blood flow, but also start to get some more blood cell accumulation from the sauna as well, and start making sure my body is comfortable in hot temperatures, because historically when my body gets hot, it stays hot, and that becomes a problem when you're out there for 8 to 10 hours, obviously. So that's one. The downhill thing, that's slightly unknown. I think I'm just gonna have to ride with how my training's been going, and something that we're kind of working in now, my coach and I, Hayden, is that this next workout, this next week, we're doing 4 by 10 minutes of hills. So in that 10-minute block, we're doing 1 minute uphill at 165 to 175 heart rate. So that's probably like 7 out of 10 effort, which is pretty tough. It's where your lactic threshold probably would be. So doing that for 10 minutes, where you're going uphill for 1 minute, downhill for 1 minute, 5 times in a row. And and then we're having like a 3-minute jog rest on a flat surface, and then doing that 3 more times, 1 minute up, 1 minute down, 1 minute up, 1 minute down, just so that I'm ready for the pounding of going down, and then the amount of hills in the second half, the hills that are punchy, that might not be big climbs where you're sitting there doing it for a while, but will be like almost like a death by 1,000 paper cuts. It's something that I kind of want to be prepared for, because there's not a lot of trails around here that have the punchy climbs. So you kind of just have to simulate them by going up one hill and coming back down a lot.
Right.
Yeah. So gonna do my best to do that, and I also, if I race this race properly and I, achieve my goal of, I'm just gonna put it out there right now, top 20. I think that would be good. Top 20 male. That would be the fastest I've ever run a 50K, which is 31 miles and beyond. And this race is 63 miles. So it would be the fastest I've ever run that distance and beyond, which would be a pretty miraculous jump from, where I've been. I've never raced a 50K fast. I've never raced a 100K fast. So, yeah. So we've both got some races that we haven't really experienced the whole all the factors in them, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Just thinking about how, like, 3 weeks from now we'll both be on the other side of this pretty much, and there's a lot to still.
I'm excited to talk about it afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm in the same boat as you, where I'm just like ready to race. I feel like we're both we've been sitting here for months talking about this, and we're both just like, dude, bring us to race day. Bring us to race day. But those aren't the only races on our calendar this year. What have you signed up for, and what else are you excited about this year?
Yeah, I've signed up for 3 other races in June. So pretty big gap in between Black Canyon and this next race, which I'm still torn on whether I want to fill yet or not, or kind of leave open for other things. Natalie's running Boston in April, so we'll be taking a trip to Boston for her to run that, and I'll be out there supporting her, so that's another thing we have to consider. So that's probably why I'm not doing a race in April as of now. I wanted to go out and do a few different ones, but I think I'm going to, vote against those for now. But the one in June is the Twisted Fork 68K, which I'm super excited about. It's held in Park City.
Local.
Yeah, it's local, so I'll be able to sleep in my own bed. It's about a 25-30 minute drive to the start line, up I-70 into the mountains. It's hosted by Finn Melanson. He's also the host of the Single Track podcast, and he's a big voice in the sport, and one that is big in the community here in Salt Lake City proper. So he's putting on the event. Natalie's also running the 30K that weekend. So I think both our sets of parents, I should say, are going to be coming out to support us then, which will be sweet because it's going to be like a festival atmosphere where they're going to have a lot of things outside of just the race, a lot of post-race things, a lot of pre-race things. It starts on like the turf in a rec center, or like a indoor little stadium type thing. So that'll be sweet. And then it traverses a route that I've done, I think most of the route already. Finn had recommended me to do this for a long run before the Grindstone 100, so I got a little taste of it. It's a cool route. Gonna be pretty hot, so I'm gonna continue to heat acclimate up until then. And then going into July, my training will basically, flip entirely to focus on UTMB with a tune-up race at the Speed Goat 50K at Snowbird in Utah, which is another 25-30 minute drive. So 2 local races. I can wake up in my bed, don't have to spend any extra money on accommodations. or flights. And this one is probably the race I'm most intimidated for out of all of my races on the schedule this year. One, because it's a 50K, which means you're probably gonna, you know, be going a bit faster than a 100-mile race. But with this race, the elevation gain in those 31 miles is like 11 or 12,000 feet, and it's at a ski resort. So you're gonna be going up and down the ski resort and not having like really any flats to run on. So you're gonna be hiking or screaming downhill. So that's gonna be one where in training I'm gonna be breaking out the poles, using my pack like I'm gonna be using for UTMB, getting all the required gear dialed in, and almost using it as a test trial for UTMB because it's almost exactly a third of what UTMB will be in terms of the elevation profile and distance. So that'll be a good one. All the races that I'm going to show up to as of now, including UTMB, are going to be competitive and in most cases mega competitive. Black Canyon 100K, usually the most competitive 100K, if not in the US, the world, for trail races. Specifically, the Twisted Fork 68K, Finn knows a lot of people in the ultra running community, so a lot of pros are going to come out and support, and they offer free childcare, so that's another incentive for people with families to come out and race, which is sweet.
Are you going to be utilizing that?
No, not yet. No, in a few years. And then Speed Goat, that's a race that, you know, Jim Walmsley's won, Hayden Hawks has won. A lot of people come out there, big competition, and then UTMB obviously. So it's gonna be hard for me to put up a good placing at any of these races, which I think is one of the most exciting parts. Where I want to be competitive, but it's almost like I'm being like resisted against if I show up to any of these races, because everyone else that's showing up to these races that wants to be competitive is doing just as much as me, if not more, and in most cases like they're probably sponsored too, so
Right.
they're paid to do this.
Well, they have the experience.
And the experience, that's another thing. Yeah, that's probably the biggest one, honestly, is what I'm starting to find with all this training. Like, the more I can consistently go week to week and handle this amount of mileage while pushing what I'm capable of and not like getting injured and staying healthy, the better I'm getting. And I can see that if someone's compounded this over 10 years,
Yeah.
I don't know, like how can I beat that? You know, it's like if I was in their position, I would almost feel like it would be disrespectful for someone in my position to beat me, you know? Because I've had all that time to experience all this stuff. Someone coming in that doesn't have that experience shoots their shot and somehow, I don't know.
I just say on the flip side of things, like that naivety that you have going into it can be used advantageously by you just thinking you have a shot or not really understanding the complexity of it all and shooting a shot, and it works out that day and you wind up like competing in the top 3, you know, like so there are advantages to it.
Yeah. When you said that, my mind went straight to the best players that I ever played with in baseball. Their naivety and their level of ability to almost underthink was their strength.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the people that, you know, went up to the plate with nothing on their mind, not a thought in their brain, and ripped the ball.
Yeah.
I think that the less you know, sometimes the better.
Yeah.
So I guess that maybe I should
Just stop
dig into that
thinking.
a little bit more.
Just stop thinking.
Dig into that more and just like use that to my advantage while I can.
Yeah. Because I mean, after these races, you'll have more information.
Yes, exactly.
What's this I see about your 9th grade math teacher?
Oh yeah. That's an opportunity that I have yet to solidify yet. But he got into the Bear 100. It's one of the most historical long running 100 milers in the U.S. It starts from Logan, Utah, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of Salt Lake City, along the Wasatch Mountain Range. Starts in Logan, and then it winds northward to Big Bear Lake, I believe, in Idaho. So he got into that, and he I don't know if he asked me or if I reached out when he posted about it, and I might be crewing him. It's in September. It's a month after UTMB. Hopefully, I want to be able to be in the shape to pace him. But a month after a race of UTMB's caliber, I'm not sure exactly how I'll be feeling. But funny enough, I didn't know at all that he was into running as much as he was when I was in high school in 9th grade. He was I think it was geometry teacher, possibly. I don't know if it was geometry or some
Geology.
No, not geology. But he's a big ultra runner. Runs a lot of road marathons. Ran Boston this past year, and he's kind of won a lot of the races in the Midwest region.
Really?
Yeah, he's won a lot of the ultras in the Midwest, which is like, it was just so crazy, like small world. Like I'm in ultras, and then I find out my 9th grade math teacher's like, he's won a lot of Midwestern ultras and local to Minnesota, obviously.
What's his name?
But I don't know if you'd want me to disclose that, honestly.
Fine. Okay.
He's pretty reclusive about it, but
Yeah.
I'm sure you'd be able to find his name on the Bear 100 starting list, Minnesotan man. There, but yeah, it was funny last year when Natalie and I went out to volunteer at the Hard Rock 100. He and his friend Tyler, which I can name drop him, they were just there coincidentally, and I don't think they realized the Hard Rock was going on that weekend. So we ran like 20 miles of the course together, and we like linked up via Instagram DMs, and ended up almost like tailing the race right behind like the back of the pack, going up the first pass, and then we came to the first aid station, and everyone had to pass through by that time, so they had like an exorbitant amount of stuff left. So they treated us like we were in the race, and we were sitting there like eating like a 5-course meal.
Oh my gosh.
It was hilarious. It was awesome. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing him again. I think he wanted to come out here possibly to do some training runs this summer too, to get acclimated at altitude and getting some vert in, because as you know, it's hard to get in vert and altitude training in Minnesota.
I mean, you can definitely suffer through and find like Highland Hills to just go up and down and get the vert, but
Yep.
the elevation, yeah, you just can't get that.
Yeah. There are some Highland grinders for sure.
Oh my
There.
gosh. Dude, they're there every day.
There's some local legends that don't have Strava that have summited. I don't know what the peak they call the peak there, but enough times to kill a horse. I don't know what the saying is. Yeah, so that's an opportunity, and then hopefully this will lead into your race schedule potentially. But if you were to get into this race that you can talk about more, I'd like to crew/pace you in some way or another. I think
Okay.
that would be cool. Given right now I have a bit more flexibility than usual, I'm not sure if things will change by that time. Kind of hoping they do. And if they do, hopefully it still allows me the opportunity to do that if you accept.
Yeah.
With that being said, you should get into your
Yeah.
if you got a lot.
I'm looking at a big year if all things go well. I got Arrowhead coming up, going back to Wausau in the first weekend of May to defend my title. I think it's only fitting. I think every year the person that has won hasn't gone back that next year, and I just want to see if it was a fluke or if I can unlock something even deeper.
Can you explain more about what Wausau exactly is for the people that are joining in now and don't know what that is? And
Yeah.
haven't heard us talk about it before.
Yeah, the Wausau last person standing is I think they've
Backyard race?
renamed it. Yeah, the Limitless. Yeah, it's a backyard race, 4.176 miles every hour on the hour until there's one person left. And this race is in Wausau, Wisconsin. It
Beautiful place.
is gorgeous, absolutely stunning. And we go over to Sylvan Hill Park right there in town. And it's a race that when I was first getting into running, I was intrigued by the last person standing events just because it didn't rely on speed. It relied on endurance and your ability to work through obstacles, overcome the suffering of it. And really, yeah, speed never comes into play. So I like that aspect of it. I went there 3 times, had 2 failures, came in 5th place, could never break that 24-hour mark. Then we did our 24-hour run or 25-hour run together, you, Kellen, and I, and that surpassed like, all right, like I can actually get to that 24, 25-hour mark. Went back the next year, won it, and
How many
um,
laps?
it was 34 laps, 142 and a half miles. So that's where I kind of derived the
So
34
straight.
hours. Yeah, 34 hours straight. That's why I'm predicting 34 to 36 hours for Arrowhead, because I did 142 and a half in 34 hours. I figured, can I do less miles in the same amount of time? So looking at that, and then I'm going to be starting this tentative title of Conquer the Calendar, which is when I'm going to start the very next weekend after Wausau, May 9th. And I'm going to start by doing 1 mile and then adding a mile every single day until I can't any longer within a 24-hour period. So
Oh, man.
the real challenge will start closer to July and into August. It's so when I did a full year of the Calendar Club, running the number of miles equal to the day of the month every month for a year, I'd reset each month back at 1 mile. So the most amount of miles I did was 31. Then I did the double down in February, where I did the treadmill and the outdoors. So I got all the way up to what, 58. So I know at least I can get to 58. And that was a lot of like, I was, doing some part time work. I didn't leave my job until, end of February. So I was still working a little bit at that time, transitioning jobs, doing most of it on my own. I had a ton of support from Lucy, obviously, but I got to 58 miles. I know I had more in the tank. So, you see people running across America 75 miles a day for 40 days or 45 days, whatever it is. So I know 75 miles a day is certainly a possibility. And when you limit all of the factors about moving, getting to, hills or mountains or dealing with traffic, removing or mitigating all the variables, what is that day? And I guess this project came to fruition by seeing people online talk about or comment on my video saying, "Oh, I thought you were doing like 300 miles on the 300th day." And yeah, just obviously 365 miles is impossible. I can do 58. Where's that line though? And the where I've been like drawing up the messaging and the meaning of it for me is a lot to do with my goal of giving hope to people, and also understanding that when we come together in this shared space of suffering and it can like allow for it to exist and allow for it to be a place where we can use it to come together on things and encourage people to step into it, that's when I get the most fulfillment out of running. And I think this challenge is a great way for people of any type of running, any skill level, any point of which they are getting in their journey or on their journey, they can show up and they can say, I've never run 5 miles before. I'm going to come out on the 5th day. And then, they can set a new challenge for themselves and come out on the 10th day and try and do 10 miles and incrementally get better. So that'll start that next weekend. I did throw my name in the hat for the BPN Go One More Last Person Standing, which would be the second to last weekend in May. We got our stroller run in June. That I'm forecasting 100 to 120 days for that calendar club challenge, so that would finish sometime in August.
You know what would be epic, man?
What?
If at a certain point, this won't actually work, but if at a certain point you guys all had kids and you actually had a kid in the stroller.
We have talked about that.
Okay.
We have talked about that.
I think they would get like, what's it called, like rattle brain, or like, I don't know. You can't have them like bump it around for that long, otherwise I think it'll permanently damage their brain. But I think that'd be.
I actually appreciate you saying that, because now I have taken that off the table. Like, I've actually considered taking
I know.
a future
Yeah.
kid on one of these runs.
No, I think maybe if they're
That'd
old
be so
enough, but
funny.
if they're young enough where their weight wouldn't really be an obstacle, I think it actually would impact their future development.
I think it would be cool, like a dream for me. I don't know. The guys have kind of talked about this too, but
Yeah.
like, if there's a big enough of our group, or even the group we have, and like the ladies wanted to set up camp at a campground where we were staying, and we could have a
Sounds-
sauna. We could have a sauna there for them. It could be by a lake. It'd be a whole experience. Everyone would have fun. We could get the kids on bikes.
It sounds like another grown-ups movie.
Oh, it does.
Like,
Yeah. Just figure out a way to get the whole
buffoonery.
family involved into our stupid adventures. But
I love it.
but then there's the last dot standing, which is another last person standing that has prize money attached to it.
Last dot standing.
It's a last
Solid.
dot stand. It's by 10 junk miles, and it's in Belleville, Wisconsin. And the only difference between this one and the other last person standings is that there are 2 aid stations, so it's not a loop. You go between aid stations.
Oh, that's
So it'd be
cool.
4 miles to 4 miles.
Oh, that's really cool.
But they have prize money, and the person last year won like $2,000 and did like 28 hours. And I was like, sign me
Wow.
up for the next one. And then, yeah, throwing my name in the hat for Moab 240. So a lot to look forward to. Not all within my control, like the BPN Go One More and the Moab 240. But if even those two don't happen, just a cool opportunity to bring to life the things that I've been working on. But I want to.
Would you consider other things if you didn't get into those, or is it kind of like it's those or nothing?
I think it's
for
those or
that?
nothing, because
Okay.
those are. Yeah, I think just those are nothing, because I see those as unique challenges, obviously, in the running space, but I also see those as like ways to put my name out there, or maybe not my name, but like my competitive running up against other people. Like that
Yep.
conquer the calendar, that is a significant challenge in my mind. But when I'm looking to gather sponsors or looking to like get into some of these bigger races, there's nothing to compare that to. And like, yeah, I could look at the last person standing in Arrowhead, but like 34 hours at a last person standing event isn't significant enough to make a name when you have people that are going for
Doing
5 days, you
5
know,
days,
like,
yeah.
so I'm trying to get into a race where I can actually put my name in there and place and see how that stands. Not just for like how, potential sponsors, but just to see more for like a humility aspect. Am I as good as I think I am, or do I have an inflated ego that hasn't actually put it to the test?
Yeah.
So there's that aspect to it. Yeah, that's those are the races that I'm looking to do this year, and ultimately, I think if all those come to fruition, I will be ready to take on that challenge. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, I'm hungry, and I'm looking for opportunities to put my name in that and see what happens. So
Man, I'm so excited for what we've got in store. I'm like, it's hard for me to be where my feet are right now when I know or I have an idea of how the experiences I'm gonna have are gonna make me feel and Natalie feel and my family feel. Like, man, it's exciting, but I also just want to make sure that I'm still living in this moment and focusing on now, because I feel like I get a lot ahead of myself a lot of times and trying to plan things out and ensuring things in the future go smoothly. But if I don't take care of what I'm supposed to right now, nothing will ever come into fruition. Nothing will ever actually happen. So that's kind of like been my focus lately, which is really hard for me. I'm gonna say I struggle with a lot to not think about the future and how my actions right now immediately impact it, but rather focusing on my immediate actions and just letting that whatever happens kind of happen. It's a tough balance to tightrope, but doing what we can. I'm hopeful for all the opportunities that are headed our way, and um, ready for anything at this point. Life has been in this stage of I'll call it like fun employment slash part-time employment now. I've started to feel some, I don't know, I'd say it's probably like someone that I'm not sure that you touched on in this podcast, but we had talked about beforehand, was that as the provider, you did talk about it earlier.
Yeah.
As the provider and the male in the relationship, there's an importance for you to provide. So being in this position that I'm in now, I almost have a sense of guilt and shame because I'm unable to. But there's things that are taking time right now that can't happen at the snap of the fingers, that I just have to be patient with and know that will happen eventually, and to trust that and to trust God and to know that what I'm doing right now is the right thing, but this very moment might not be the right moment.
Amen.
We were reading a passage today at church. It was Nehemiah, and the book of Nehemiah, and I think it was in the first section, and he had to wait 4 years for God to show him that he was doing the right thing. Like, he was ready, but it took 4 years for it to come to fruition. So with that knowledge and kind of just that example, it helped me to better digest my situation, and that this is still fairly new to me and fresh, and that I shouldn't worry as much. I'm doing the things, I'm not being complacent. I'm reaching out to the people that I should be reaching out to. I'm making the connections, and I'm doing what I should be doing. So it's a matter of time, I know that, but it also, like, in this moment, it feels like I could be doing more. But on the other hand, I'm not going to put myself in a position like an accountant. Shout out to Landon, sorry. Like, that doesn't necessarily align with me, and that's tough. It's a tough line to balance with money and providing. It's like you feel that pressure. Everything relies on money. The bills rely on money. You being able to fulfill your goals and like doing these races relies on money. So being able to earn that money is a big part of this process, and one that's probably the biggest factor of strain right now, especially with Natalie being, the biggest provider and basically the sole provider. So, man, it's been interesting, but also has allowed me to take a step back and kind of reset and weigh my options, and even give me the ability to explore options, which is something I'm really grateful for. And another thing that we talked about at church today was that the same part of your brain that stores anxiety and allows you to be anxious, the part that stores gratitude and allows you to be gratitude. So if you're grateful for something, and if you're grateful in that moment, you can't have anxiety at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess remembering to be grateful for what you have, and like, we still have a roof over our head. We're still able to drive wherever we need to drive. We're not dealing with crippling debt. It's like we're able to be, comfortable in a lot of ways that many people can't right now. Fires in California, people have lost their whole homes and everything they have to their name. So, it's just you want everything right now, but I'm starting to learn more and more that patience is just oh man, especially in these times.
Yeah.
You need to have it, otherwise your thoughts are just gonna eat you alive. So I don't know where that came from, but it's just something that's been like weighing heavy on like my heart, and something that I want to focus on a lot. This is another thing we talked about at church, which is like cool because everything's like kind of lining up. You kind of have to put all of your concern where your walls are broken, and maybe your walls are entirely broken down, but if you don't place your entire concern there, you're compromising, or you're just entirely rejecting the things that are going on in your life that are wrong. So I'm focusing on it, and almost like I'm making it a point to rebuild what I can right now, and digging into it, because resisting it and rejecting it is not helping at all. Which I think is easy to do because it requires you to do nothing. If you want to do nothing, to be lazy and sit back and let life pass you by, like that's easy to do. But just I think getting into it more, and getting creative with the ways that you can get yourself out of the situation has been a roller coaster so far, but one that I'm getting more and more comfortable with, and realizing that this is what life's about. These are the times that Natalie and I are going to look back on, and like we were able to get through this. We trusted it, we trusted God, and it was the right decision long term for our family. So
have that eternal timeline.
Yes, exactly. And a comment that I had gotten from a friend about our podcast, he likes that we talk about our personal ongoings and happenings, and it makes us more relatable to be vulnerable and to share those things. Like I think last episode I talked about the issue that I had up until June or May of this year with masturbation and pornography, and he said that that's something that resonated with him, and that he kind of needed to hear, so that he didn't feel like he was alone in it, and something that he knew that other people were struggling with and battling too. So I think we got to keep putting the hammer on the nail. That's that people don't nowadays. That too many things going on right now that people are susceptible to, that are just flat out wrong. That we can get into in other episodes, but one of which I think is huge right now is gambling and like sports betting and all that kind of thing. Like that's being normalized disgustingly, especially when it comes to like NFL and all that. Like it's just too casual.
It is kind of wild how, like, I feel like the last 2 to 3 years, it's almost like it's becoming a gendered thing, where like the OF and like that industry has become so normalized with women, in the same way that, especially in the last year, gambling has become so normalized and pushed on men. And these are both things that are just, they're distancing yourself from God in a way that, on the surface, it's like the people that I follow are are normalizing it, and it's like their ads. It's like it's pushed on you so much, and to think that like the fact that you don't do it, that's weird.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or the incentives that they give you. It's just
Hmm.
that makes it even more wrong. Um, but yeah, we got some big life things upcoming on I think both our ends at this big year we got going on. So
Yeah.
excited! It's already off to a hot start. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you hopping on here. I know it's we had Friday nights or Fridays locked in. We pushed to Sunday night, so appreciate you hopping on. And
episode 9,
episode 9. We'll see you guys next
7
week.
just dropped.
7 just dropped.